Hello, today we are going to work on solving equations with addition and subtraction, although these are going to be working with fractions and decimals, okay? So numbers 1 and 2 would be review. Remember that when it says, when there's an addition equation, y plus 14, you're going to do the inverse and subtract 14 from both sides to isolate your variable to get your y by itself. So we'll have y is 17, and then remember that we're going to substitute 17 back in for y and check our work. And it does check out. Number 2 is subtraction, so you would do the inverse and add 33 to both sides to get m by itself. To get 105, and then we're going to put m, or 105 back in for m, subtract 33, and make sure that it's 72. Okay, so it checks out. Okay, so today now we're going to start messing with fractions and decimals. Nothing different. We're going to solve the same way. We just have to remember the rules of adding and subtracting with decimals. So number 3 says n plus 2.3 or something plus 2.3 is 41. So we're going to do the inverse and subtract 2.3 from 41. Guys, remember that you line up the decimals when you add or subtract. So we're going to have to add a 0, a decimal and a 0 to 41, and we're subtracting 2.3. So you're lining up the decimals. And be sure you bring your decimal straight down. So we're going to get n equals 38.7. And then, yes, you still have to substitute back in for n, 38.7 plus 2.3. Line those decimals up again. It is 41 or 41.0, so it checks out. Number 4 says g minus 13 and 2/10, so the inverse of subtraction is addition. So we're going to add 13 and 2/10 to both sides, and again lining up those decimals. So we're going to get g is 42, and then we're going to plug it back in and make sure it checks out. 42.0 minus 13.2. 28.8, it checks out. Number 5, again, it's written in reverse order, but remember the whole goal is always to isolate your variable or get your letter by itself. So if it says m minus 2.5, the inverse would be adding 2.5. And just remember to always line up those decimals when you're adding and subtracting. So we get m is 3.7, and then we can put 3.7 back in for m. And we do get 1.2. It checks out. Okay, go ahead and try 6 and 7. Pause the video, try, and then unpause, and we'll check our work. Number 6, you should have subtracted 12.6 from both sides. To get 28.6, and then I should see you substituting 28.6 back in for n, adding it to 12.6, and we do get 41 and 2/10. Number 7 says p minus 5/10, so we're going to add 5/10 to both sides. Again, be sure you line up the decimals. So you're going to get 6.22, and then put 6.22 back in for p. We're subtracting 0.5, and make sure it checks out. And it does, 5.72. So there are your decimals. On the back side, we now have fractions. Remember that when we add and subtract fractions, we have to have a common denominator. Same rules. If it says plus 2/3, we're going to subtract 2/3 from both sides. 2/3 minus 2/3 is gone. It's 0. And we can get a common denominator. Reminder, if you're not sure, you can put 3 and 10 into a division ladder. The only thing that goes in would be 1. So the least common denominator would be 30. Times 3 would be 27. Times 10 would be 20. Go back and look at your sign. We're subtracting. So 27/30 minus 20/30 would be 7/30. Okay. Okay. And then we can put 7/30 back in for x. So 7/30 plus 2/3. We're going to make that into 30 times 10. So we have 7/30 plus 20/30 is 27/30. Now that does not look the same as 9/10, but remember, if you simplify by 3, 27 divided by 3 is 9, 30 divided by 3 is 10, so it is 9/10. Number 9. Says x minus 1/4. The inverse would be to add 1/4 to both sides to get x by itself. Remember, if you're not sure how to, the least common multiple of 4 and 6, you can do a division ladder and multiply down and around. 2 times 2 is 4, times 3 is 12. So we're going to make the denominator 12. Times 2 would be 10. Times 3 would be 3. We're adding 10/12 plus 3/12 is 13/12. For now, I am going to let you leave that like that, even though it's improper. Go ahead and substitute it back in. 13/12 minus 1/4. Again, common denominator would be 12 times 3. 13/12 minus 3/12 would be 10/12. Which if you simplify, we will get 5/6. Okay, number 10, the inverse of x minus 3/5 would be adding 3/5 to both sides. If you put 5 and 8 in the division ladder, only a 1 will go into both numbers. So 5 times 8 is 40. 8 times 5 is 40, 5 times 5 is 25, 5 times 8 is 40, 3 times 8 is 24. We are adding. So 25 24s plus 24 24s would be 49 40ths. And again, I'm going to let you leave it like that, even though it's improper. And then we can substitute 49 40ths back in for x, subtract 3/5. Common denominator would be 40 times 8 would be 24. And then we can subtract to get 25 40ths and simplify. And we do get 5/8. Okay. Okay. Go ahead and see if you can pause and do number 11 and 12, and then unpause to see if you got them correct. 11 said x plus 2/5, so you should have subtracted, did the inverse, subtracted 2/5 from both sides. Common denominator you should have found was 60. 12 times 5, 5 times 12. We're subtracting. So you would have got 11/60 is what you should have got. Number 12 said x minus 2/9. So the inverse would be adding 2/9 to both sides. common denominator you should have found was 18 times 3 and times 2. So we have 19/18 for our answer. Okay, the last one is just dealing with mixed numbers. We need to get that x by itself. It says x plus 1 1/4, so we're going to do the inverse and subtract 1 1/4 from both sides to get the x by itself. The common denominator would be 12 times 3. Now we can subtract 11/12 minus 3/12 is 8/12, and the whole number is 2 minus 1 is 1. So we have 1 and 8/12, or if you simplify, we could use a 4, it would be larger. We would have 1 and 2/3. Either of those I would accept. Okay. That is how you find one-step equations with fractions and decimals.